Lena thought she had finally escaped. The night she packed her bags and drove out of the small town, she left behind everything that connected her to Caleb. For months, their relationship had been a nightmare of obsession, control, and fear. At first, he was charming. He knew how to say the right things, always showing up with flowers, leaving sweet notes, and whispering promises of forever. But soon, the sweetness turned to poison. He tracked her phone, followed her car, and demanded to know where she was every second of the day. When she finally ended things, she blocked his number, changed her phone, and even switched apartments. It felt like freedom, or at least, it was supposed to. The first sign that something was wrong came at the coffee shop near her new job. Lena ordered a latte, and when the barista handed it over, he smiled and said, "Sunshine, that's what you like to be called, right?" Lena froze. That was Caleb's private nickname for her. He was the only one who ever used it. She forced a nervous laugh, convinced it was a coincidence, and hurried out. But later that same day, while riding home in a rideshare, the driver turned to her and whispered, "You look prettier when you don't argue." Her blood went cold. Those were Caleb's words, exactly the ones he used to hiss at her whenever she resisted him. By the end of the week, it wasn't just baristas and drivers. Random strangers on the street would glance her way and murmur words Caleb had once said to her in private. Some whispered threats, others stared silently, their eyes flat and empty. Lena couldn't tell if they were mocking her or warning her. The world around her no longer felt random, it felt staged, as though Caleb had stretched his presence into every corner of her life. Desperate, Lena called Caleb's sister, Amanda. She had always been kind, always aware of her brother's darker side. Amanda picked up the phone, sounding exhausted but firm. "Lena, Caleb is in rehab. He's been there for months. He doesn't have a phone, and he can't contact anyone. Whatever you're experiencing, it's not him." Lena wanted to believe her. She needed to believe her. But the incidents kept multiplying. She came home one evening to find a message scribbled across her doormat in black marker. "You re-steal mine." Another night, the power flickered in her apartment, and when she went to check the fuse box, she found a sticky note taped to it that read, "Don't hide from me, sunshine." Her fear turned into paranoia. She stopped answering her door, stopped trusting delivery drivers, and stopped making eye contact with strangers. She moved into a hotel downtown, hoping to disappear for a while. But even there, safety was an illusion. At 2 a.m. on her third night, a knock echoed through the quiet hallway. She froze in bed, her heart hammering. Slowly, she crept toward the door and peered through the peephole. A woman stood there, face blank, eyes glassy. She knocked again, harder this time. "Sunshine," she said softly, her lips barely moving. Lena stumbled back, covering her mouth to keep from screaming. By now, Lena knew this wasn't normal stalking. Caleb wasn't just following her, he had created something much darker. It was as if he had built an underground network of people willing to act as his messengers. Some looked like everyday strangers, but they carried his words, his phrases, his threats. It was like Caleb had split himself into countless faces, each one ready to remind her that escape was impossible. Everywhere she went, she felt watched. The hotel staff smiled too wide, as though waiting for her to break. A child in the lobby hummed a tune Caleb once whistled while locking her inside his apartment. Even a man begging for change outside the hotel grinned and muttered, "Forever mine, sunshine." Her phone, the one with the new number, began to buzz with anonymous texts. They weren't numbers she recognized, but every message carried Caleb's voice. "Don't think you can run. Don't think you can hide. Every face you see could be me." Lena deleted the messages, but more kept coming, faster and more threatening. Her paranoia grew unbearable. She barely slept, always waking to the sound of footsteps in the hallway or whispers outside her door. She stopped eating, convinced even the food might be tainted by one of Caleb's unseen hands. She realized she couldn't trust anyone. The old woman at the grocery store, the teenager selling flowers on the corner, the man at the newsstand. Any one of them could be carrying Caleb's words. Finally, Lena decided she had to confront Amanda again. She needed answers. Was Caleb really in rehab, or was that just another layer of his manipulation? She drove to Amanda's house in the middle of the night, hands gripping the wheel so tightly her knuckles turned white. When Amanda opened the door, she looked shocked to see Lena standing there, pale and shaking. "He's in there," Amanda swore again. "I've visited him myself. I know he hasn't left." But as Amanda spoke, Lena's eyes drifted past her shoulder, into the darkened hallway of the house. On the wall hung a photo of Amanda with Caleb, smiling. and behind them, half hidden in the corner of the picture, was a blurred reflection in the mirror, a face Lena recognized. Her own. The realization crashed over her like ice water. Caleb's obsession wasn't just about control, it was about replacing her world with his. Every face could be his messenger, every place could be his stage. And even now, staring into Amanda's worried eyes, Lena couldn't shake the feeling that she was no longer looking at Amanda at all. She was looking at another face of Caleb. The hotel room felt like a cage. She had pushed the dresser against the door, locked the windows, and unplugged every lamp in fear that shadows might give her away. Still, the silence was unbearable. Every creak of the floor above, every car horn outside, made her think he's here. Her phone lay face down on the nightstand, but it buzzed again 3 vibrations in a row. She didn't want to look, but something stronger than fear forced her to. The screen glowed with a new message. Good night, sunshine, sweet dreams. Her blood ran cold. The words weren't on any app, no number, no contact, just floating in her notification bar. She tried to swipe it away, but it clung stubbornly to her screen until the phone froze and shut off. She whispered, "This can't be happening." The knock came again, slow, deliberate, 3 taps, exactly like the strangers who had come the night before. She covered her mouth to silence her breathing. Whoever stood outside didn't move. Minutes stretched, until the silence returned. Finally, she pressed her ear to the door. Nothing. She dared to peek through the peephole only to flinch back. The hallway was empty. Completely empty. That night, she didn't sleep. The next morning, she packed fast and checked out, ignoring the confused clerk who asked if everything was okay. She drove out of the city, hoping distance would mean safety. But halfway down the interstate, she spotted a rideshare sticker on the car behind her. The driver was staring straight ahead, but when their eyes met through the mirror, his lips moved silently. She recognized the words instantly. "You can't hide, sunshine." Her hands shook on the wheel. She swerved into the next exit, desperate to lose him, but every turn she made, the car followed. Finally, she pulled into a crowded shopping plaza. The car slowed, then turned away as if nothing had happened. She stumbled inside a coffee shop, breathless. The barista smiled too wide as she handed over the cup. "Extra sugar. Just how Caleb said you like it." The cup slipped from her hand, splashing hot coffee across the counter. The barista didn't flinch, only stared with a vacant smile as though someone else was controlling her. She ran out, nearly tripping on the curb. Hours later, she called Caleb's sister again. This time her voice was breaking. "You told me he was in rehab, but he's everywhere. He's sending people strangers. They say the same words. They know my name. They know things only he knew." On the other end, silence. Then the sister whispered, "That's impossible. Caleb isn't in rehab anymore." Her heart pounded. "What do you mean?" "He died," the sister said flatly. 2 weeks ago. Overdose." The phone slipped from her hand, clattering against the tile. She stood frozen, unable to breathe. If Caleb was dead, who was doing this? Her thoughts twisted. Maybe the strangers weren't just repeating him. Maybe they were him. Maybe his face, his voice, his words were bleeding into theirs. That night she booked another hotel, this one on the edge of town. She told herself she wouldn't answer the door, no matter what. She pushed the dresser again, double-checked every lock, and sat in the corner clutching the hotel Bible like a shield. Midnight came. The hum of the air conditioner was the only sound. Then, slowly, the screen of the TV flickered to life on its own. Static filled the room. Through the blur, a figure appeared. Caleb, his face leaned closer, distorted in the static, whispering the same word again and again. "Sunshine, sunshine, sunshine." She yanked the plug from the wall. The TV went black. A second later the phone rang. Not her cell, the landline by the bed. Trembling, she lifted it. On the other end, dozens of voices spoke at once, overlapping, chanting Caleb's words. Some male, some female, some children, all saying the same thing. "We are Caleb, and we will never leave you." She screamed and hurled the phone across the room. The next morning, she checked out again. She couldn't keep running from hotel to hotel. She drove until the road ran out, stopping at a small cabin rental near the woods. The owner handed her the keys with a strange look, as if he already knew her. "You're safe here," he said softly. For now, that night, the cabin was quiet, only the sound of crickets outside. She tried to calm her mind, telling herself maybe the nightmare had ended. Maybe she was finally alone. But at 3 a.m., she woke to movement outside the window. Slowly, she pulled the curtain back. Dozens of faces stared back at her. Men, women, children, blank eyes, expressionless, standing in the moonlight. All of them whispered in unison, "Sunshine." Her knees buckled. She staggered back, slamming the window shut. But when she turned around, her breath caught in her throat. Someone was already inside. A man stood in the corner, his face shifting Caleb's face. Then another stranger's. Then another, like a slideshow of borrowed identities. "You can't run," the shifting face said, "because I don't need just one body anymore. I have them all." She backed against the wall, her scream tearing through the cabin. And in that instant she realized the truth. This wasn't just stalking, this wasn't even Caleb anymore. It was something bigger, something that used his obsession to spread, like a virus, through every face, every voice, every stranger she met. And now, no one she saw could ever be trusted again, because Caleb wasn't gone. He was everywhere.